those of the advertiser and do not necessarily represent those of WOAI and iHeartMedia.
Welcome. This is Sidebar. Sidebar, a frank discussion. Life, the law, and liberty. Sponsored by the LaHood Norton Law Group. And now, your objection sustained. Your hosts, Karen Klaus and former Bexar County District Attorney, Nico LaHood.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And every Saturday morning, we're here from 9 to 10. And you can join us live on a platform of your choice, like Facebook Live, because we are broadcasting on that during the show and also on WOAI. And we'll always have an after show where we will continue the conversation. Of course, please give us your input. And everybody everybody that's listening or viewing today, like Sean and Juan and Ralph, thank you so
Sarah,
much.
Cindy, thank you very much. Joe, early connectors, Yvette, thank you. Delena. There's some changes coming up on Twitter because Twitter is going to get better. But before it gets better, it's going to get worse. So they're changing some things in the algorithm. They're changing things on how you're going to be paying.
Good stuff for us? Or
I think it's going to be good for everybody because they're going to open it up for a lot of things in streaming, a lot of different things that TikTok already does, that YouTube already does. But Elon Musk is bringing everything to Twitter, so it's going to... And now preparing for the election is going to be amazing, so...
Well, that means that everybody that's listening and viewing right now, you better like and share because other people want to know about this, and if they don't yet, they better know about it. Because...
So, Karen, I will encourage everybody, if you're listening on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, please go to our Twitter. Please go to our Twitter. If you don't know, just go to www.sidebartv.com, select the Twitter icon, and start following us there. Please go to Twitter. If you're not a Twitter guy, I recommend highly that you go and get on Twitter because it's the cleanest one at the moment. So follow us on Twitter, please.
Okay, so Ruthie has a message for both Nico and George, and I'm going to introduce you guys in a second. She says, we can't wait to hear what y'all have to say. We've got our mimosas on the ready. So there is a lot to talk about. Former Bexar County DA Nico LaHood, trial lawyer, managing partner of LaHood Norton Law, and also George Araujo, scholar, former chemist, pharmaceutical researcher, and director. More and more news is emerging about the gunman. Who saw him? Should the head of Secret Service resign? And now I think they just arrested a Florida man accused of making threats against Trump and J.D. Vance. And people are just buzzing about him. And some people didn't like the choice of vice president. Others did. After you saw him speak at the RNC, did you love him even more? And I guess hopefully we're going to talk about today what's the future of Biden-Harris.
Yeah, we can't ignore it. Look, the whole week I've been, every night when my wife, we pray at nighttime together, I've been praying and thanking the Lord for protecting the country. And with, even if you don't support Trump, if Trump would have been assassinated, this country would be very different today. It would have been different Sunday morning. Completely different. Dynamic, strife, anger, revenge ideology. I mean, it would have just been horrible. And someone who deals with, unfortunately, death for a living a lot. I've seen a lot of murder scenes. I've dealt with a lot of murder scenes. I've prosecuted murders. I've defended. And also my brother was taken from us in our driveway. So, you know, I understand. I think it's people kind of get away from last Saturday and they don't realize truly how providential that was. I mean, if you're not a believer, that's fine. I'm not here to say that God intervened because God's always involved in our lives. I mean, he doesn't just sit on his butt and says, oh, you guys are screwing it up and then jumps in and, gets in there. I mean, he's always involved. I mean, obviously, it wasn't Trump's time. Now, why Corey passed away? These are eternal questions that we have for God who does things and sees the beginning from the end. But that's we can talk about that on R-rated Christianity, maybe not on this show. But we gotta, I mean, we should really, I hope people pause and really realize what happened last Saturday. Not just from a Secret Service failure, because we'll talk about that today. I mean, you have different factions of the Secret Service, or different levels of the Secret Service, the early team, the setup team, the perimeter team, the team that's close to Trump, that made that body, barricade on him, bunker, they call it a body bunker, over him immediately when the shots fired. But I mean, literally a millisecond and a millimeter literally. I mean, that's not figuratively. And if you've seen the computer-generated images of how when he was talking, I mean, the shot, the turn, the tilt, I mean, to scrape your ear, and I mean, it's truly unbelievable. Mathematically miraculous, as George and I talked about during the week, mathematically miraculous. But that being said, I mean, this is where we're at. And then, of course, it didn't take more than a day for the left-wing pundits saying all kinds of idiotic stuff. You know, it was set up. It was a setup. What are you doing wearing that patch?
His bandage was too big.
I mean,
It was glass.
Yeah, from the teleprompter, just absolute cultish stuff. I mean, look, you don't have to like Trump. You don't have to. I mean, that's fine, but I don't wish that on anybody. To be honest, I can't. Number one, as a biblical-minded man, as a Christian, I'm not going to. But there's a lot there. I mean, and then whether Trump has really changed in this and his speech and the marathon speech, and we can talk about that. We're going to talk about the RNC and what's going on, the state of the Democrat Party, the state of the Republican Party, kind of role reversals, in my opinion. Where Biden and Harris are going to be, if they're going to be anywhere. What goes? There's a lot going on. So for me, it's been a week of Thanksgiving, because I mean, I care. I love this country deeply. I love the foundation of this country. Donald Trump is not this country. He's not. I mean, I don't worship a man. I worship Christ. But he's serving a purpose now, and so he's fulfilling something that is needed. This country, I believe, this country needs now of what we're facing. And but aside from that, it would have been really terrible. I mean, in many ways. So those are my initial thoughts. I mean, it's a position of, I think I've had a posture of humility this week, in the sense that of what we've been spared from, not just us, but generations to come.
Yeah.
And again, he's not the savior. I'm not saying that, but he is serving a purpose to hopefully get other people on track and maybe get this country back on. Not to, like I say, make America great, because I don't think it's great, but I would like it to be better, and I would love it to be great again at some point. And that starts with a person, people voting, people going out there and advocating, and so hopefully we'll do that.
Certainly the greatest of all the options available, but not as great as it can be.
Yeah.
To be sure.
Sure.
And I've been thinking all week about something that you said almost in the immediate aftermath of the attempt on Trump's life, and that is any change in the slightest factor, and we'd be living in a very different country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was that, and that's what I call it by a mathematical. It's mathematically improbable that what happened actually happened, and I shudder. I shudder to think of the alternative had Trump died on that stage. I mean, the slightest shake in the assassin's hand, or had Trump not shifted the way he did, or tilted his head the way that he did. And we're talking about we were a millimeter from a very different country, and not necessarily a better country. I mean, the chaos that would have ensued. I'm just thinking, look, the Republican National Convention was the next day for all intents and purposes, essentially. Would a Republican National Convention have happened? I doubt it. Around whom? I can't, we don't stop and think about just, Nico's pretty good about this, because in your past, you've dealt with death. And so you've thought, what if? And how your life went an entirely different trajectory after your brother died. And so you have a sensitivity to these things that a lot of people do not. I've experienced a great loss in my early life. And so I like to reflect too on the idea that just one event, or the lack of, can change everything. And I think I'm hoping that Americans did that. And I think the Republican National Convention was reflective. There was a lot of celebration, of course, because Trump wasn't killed on that stage. And there was an emphasis on unity. I think that was wonderful. There was a lot of energy. But there was also a somber essence through the convention.
Sure.
And Trump's first 20 minutes in that speech was very somber, very reflective. And I think I'd like to say that reflected the national mood, that Americans actually sat back and thought, does it really make sense for us to be at each other's throats over rather petty things? I mean, some of these things are very, very important, and we talk about them week after week. But some of the crap that people are arguing about, Karen, and hating one another over are really indeed petty. They're partisan squabbles that have been amplified into hateful things. And I hope that in a national reflective mood that we can step back and say, let's really focus on the things that matter.
Well, listen to so many people that said, don't miss next time. I mean, think about that. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not everybody was reflective.
no. I mean, that's an evil statement. I mean, to think about wishing the murder on someone, that is a curse. I mean, it's evil. When for you, hoping someone dies is an evil thought. Just I'm not saying I haven't had them in the past
It's
before.
truly demonic.
It's demonic. Absolutely, it is. And for people to say that, not understanding that they're spiting their face for their nose or whatever that saying goes. I mean, it's idiotic. I mean, whether it's The View or the people that taking interviews and people talking about it, I wish you didn't miss next time. Oh, it was staged. It was fake. Well, someone passed away. That's still staged. It was just. I mean, it's just insane. So you have this guy Corey, who is truly the hero in the whole thing, and the volunteer fire chief. I think he's an engineer by profession, and he heard the first shot because I believe it was the third or fourth shot that took his life, and last thing he says, get down, and then covered his daughters and his wife. That's a true man, and that's a servant leader of his home. He loved the Lord, from what I understand. I said it I didn't say it last week. I said it on I think I said it on our rated. Oh no, I don't know when I said it. I said it on. Oh, we did it Sunday. We did a special R-rated, and yeah, I remember we talked about it a little bit.
Yep.
I mean, Governor Shapiro did the right thing. I mean, Democrat, Republican, he acted like a leader, and I think he was very classy and showed leadership qualities. And he said, "Look, this guy loved the Lord. He's a fierce supporter of Donald Trump." I mean, that was a very classy leadership, very unselfish thing to do. He didn't think about partisanship. So good for Governor Shapiro to do that. But that's the loss. I mean, for sure. I mean, this is the new normal, as Saulo said, that I always talk about. There's a new normal in that life. So we all go back to politics. We all go back, but there's that empty chair. There's a new life. There's those daughters have to think in their mind, my daddy is not going to walk me down the aisle. My children are not going to see their granddaddy. He's not going to be able to sow into this is a reality of anybody that loses someone in life. So there's a lot to talk about. I know, Karen. I know you want to talk about other things: the RNC, J.D. Vance, Kamala Harris, and Biden. We'll do all that.
Another thing is, you said if things had been different, the world would have been a changed place. But I'm wondering if it isn't a changed place. Even experience him being shot. Did Trump change? We're going to talk about that when we come back. Please stick with us. We will have more on Sidebar.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County.
If you are on one of the social media platforms, please tell others about it. Like and share. It's so important to get the word out just so that we can have these discussions. So when right after the assassination attempt, President Trump was briefed on what had happened, what had gone down when it came to the Secret Service. And everybody's talking about the director, Cheadle, and did she do enough? But going back to the RNC and Trump's speech, the first thing he did when he was talking about the assassination attempt is thank the Secret Service. And I have a feeling that a lot of people, when they heard that, just gulped, because I know I did, and said, thank them for what? Why they weren't doing their job, or were they?
Well, it depends on what phase of the Secret Service you're talking about. So I think he was thinking, I can only assume he was thinking his immediate detail around him. I mean, they made a body bunker immediately. Mm-hmm. I mean, they and there was 1-2 shot. The first Secret Service guy and the second one were there, I think, by the third shot. There was 1-2, and then boom, and he goes. As soon as he goes down, if you watch to the left, somebody's tackling him or on him, and then if they make that body bunker. So those 4 or 5 shots after that initial 2 shots could have theoretically been in their bodies.
And reports are saying that he was asking for his shoes, not because he took them off, but because he was hit so hard that he actually came from separated from his shoes.
Wow.
So that's a really good point.
So I think he was thanking them. In my opinion, I mean, you got to ask him what he was thinking, and I think he's doing the right thing regardless. He's pausing and before making conclusions. Look, it's obviously there was a Secret Service failure.
I think it's the same thing when he said there was good people on both sides. He wasn't trying to say everybody's horrible. He's not doing that. He's like, you know what? Some people did right, some people did wrong, but I'm going to take the approach of saying, thank you for the people that, helped him.
And maybe he's being wise knowing that there's a bunch of pit bulls out there. They're not going to let this go, which rightfully so. Those senators following her. Look, I'm not into that ambush BS crap because, I've been in politics and just be a man or a woman and show up in public and let's talk. You don't have to, ambush. But this lady's avoiding things and that side avoids things. I thought it was appropriate under the circumstances. This is something that should not go away. I mean, there's no room for a mistake. Any other job would have fired whoever's in charge of that. Think of a catering.
But that's it. That's the issue. It's whoever's in charge. There's a clear delineation between people who are serving in the rank and file and people who are in leadership. And I think the criticisms are levied at the leadership at Kim Cheadle and also the network or the integration between the United States Secret Service and the Department of Homeland Security, which is the organization through whom they report up. And of course, that's Alejandro Mayorkas. And that's where you get in the problems then, right? Mayorkas has been an abject failure on security in general in this country, and he does it with a smile. So I think the skepticism and the suspicion is well warranted, but Trump didn't focus on that. He focused on thanking the individuals who saved him. It's a really good point and very important distinction. And Nico, those first 20 minutes, I have to say, I felt like I had an out-of-body experience. I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but I hung on every word. And he said, and you could see the pain in his face. You could see it. And Trump's not really known for
emotion,
this sort of soft tenderness in his face, if you will. But I could see it. I could see it in his eyes. I was watching his expression.
Or any type of weakness.
And he says, look, I'm only going to say this once because it's actually too painful to talk about it. And to hear it in his words and to hear the way he expressed it. And then to say that I am here by the grace of Almighty God. That Nico texted right away and said, that's the most important line I've heard yet. And it truly was. It truly sort of oriented the focus of the speech. And even though he got into policy after about the first 20 minutes, he became pit bullish about policy. He talked about prosperity crushing inflation. Exactly.
Politics. What are you doing?
You got to differentiate from your opponent. And of course,
ridiculous.
The MSNBC says, see, he is divisive. No, this is actually an election here. He is a candidate, and he needs to differentiate along policy. But I like that he did it. And what was different is that undergirding all of this was truly a sense that, yes, this is important, but there's something much bigger afoot now. There's a sense and appreciation that we're not just doing politics, but there's the Almighty God is sort of presiding over all this. I don't presume to talk for God either, Nico, as you know, but I got to say, anybody who steps back and says that God had nothing to do with this isn't somehow part of a sovereign plan, and that there isn't something larger afoot, I think you're missing out.
So you talk about Trump's speech. I had different opinions. I was listening, and I had kind of an ebb and flow of analysis. So Trump is not good at emotions. He's awkward with it. He's not a good hugger, and he's not a good kisser. He kisses people awkwardly, and he hugs people awkwardly, including his grandchildren. But I think it's genuine. He's just awkward. Yeah. J.D. Vance is a good hugger. I mean, I look at things like that. The way he hugged his wife on stage was genuine. The way he hugs people, he wraps around. I mean, that's kind of a good, humble, dude.
Very good observation.
I mean, that's and Trump's not that way. It doesn't mean he doesn't mean it. He's just not that way. So when his version of sincerity or genuineness is going to look different than everybody else's. There's people that are, I'm not being disrespectful, ugly criers. There's people that are more, appropriate criers. People cry and show emotion in different ways.
But I think it works for him, and I think it worked for him on stage.
I'm not even criticizing him. I'm just saying.
But I want to analyze that because I think it's important what you're saying. I think because I'm thinking about optics too. It's just reality. I mean, he's running for office. I think because he doesn't do it very often and doesn't do it very well when there is some expression,
Yeah.
it tends to be more meaningful. No dig on Vance. I'm sure he's a genuine. He came across very genuine. I could listen to the man and see he's not genuine or sincere. And I think he does give you really good hugs. He hugs his wife like I hug my wife. You hug your wife.
Yeah, he's a good hugger.
He's a good hugger.
But I really enjoyed. I enjoyed watching. Look, there was a video that circulated where Trump is behind the scenes with Don Jr. and Eric, and he calls Eric sweetheart. Come here, sweetheart. I mean, I
saw that
in Spanish, cariño. You know, it was just it was endearing.
Yeah.
And then he pulled him in to kiss him with this awkward kiss, but it's a genuine kiss. And then he missed Eric the first time. He said, "No, come here, I want to kiss you." And he didn't say that, but you could sense it. There's something different about him. And so the length of the speech irritated me at first, and then I sat back and I said, "Wait a minute, don't do what you hope other people don't do." I mean, I think this was therapeutic for him.
Yeah,
His
totally.
speech was 3,000 words. His written speech, because you can get it. He went 12,000 words. He went an hour and 32 minutes. That's a marathon. So what does that tell you? Well, that he can last an hour and 30 minutes of talking, and Biden can't even do 15 minutes of a stage interview where they have to cut things.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, and this guy's just going.
Yeah.
I think this is my opinion.
Yes.
I think we just went off.
It's a player that got benched, and this is his first game. I'm like, I'm going to play hard. Like today, I'm coming back to play.
It wasn't even hard.
No, not
I just
hard,
think,
but
yeah,
it was hard. It's an hour and 32 minutes.
No, yeah, but I mean, it wasn't aggressive, is what I'm
I
saying.
agree.
I didn't think
For minutes, I like the way he went through the assassination attempt from his perspective. I love that he honored Comparatori on stage, that he went to his uniform. I love that he kissed the helmet. That's Trump. That comes from. I don't have any problems with that whatsoever. I did hear people say, well, that's over the top, and it always seems like it was all staged. That's Trump. He does stuff like that. He honors people. Throughout his presidency, he has no problem honoring the common man. He feels these things deeply. I think he's awkward expressing
But
it,
that's
he
why,
feels
George.
it deeply.
But that's why he's hugged flags before, and people thought it was stupid, and he's kissed a flag before.
Yeah.
And at first, because I show mine differently, but I said it's not me.
Yeah.
I'm me and he's him.
Yeah.
And I thought about it. I said, wait a minute. This was I'm telling you, I went through a different analysis as time went on. I said, honor to a man who passed away. I held myself accountable, and I went back and forth with this. And I said, no, that's Trump's style. Because at first it was like, oh, you know, I had.
And I think it's a message for people who are watching, a big message, because there's lots of different ways to be sincere. And your particular way to be sincere isn't the only way to be sincere. Other people. Right. I think that's part of the problem with politics today. You know, we box ourselves in. Nico uses the word tribal. I like silos.